What's up, everybody? It's your boy Jerome, and I'm here today with the review for Power Season 5, Episode 8. And this episode is titled A Friend of the Family. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright, so this episode, it kind of picks up where it left off 2 weeks ago. And that's with Angela, Tasha, and James all together. And James talking about he's going to take the rap for, killing Ray Ray instead of Angela. I mean, not Angela, but Tasha and Tariq. And Angela is trying to, let him know why this is such a bad idea and all the questions that the cops will have for him if he comes to the police station to confess to killing Ray Ray, which, I guess originally he didn't think this through completely. So, James is talking about how he wants to frame Dre for the murder of Ray Ray and all that kind of stuff. But on the other side, you have Tasha. Tasha does not want to frame Dre at all. She basically wants to put this all on Kanan to make Kanan go down for what has happened with everything. And then you have Blanca. She is talking to Tamika, Mock, and Saxe. And, she's telling them about Terry, how he took a leave of absence with his office, but at his apartment, it's completely empty as if nobody lives there. So they are like, fuck, we lost our opportunity with Terry. And, Tamika's like, well, that pokes a hole in Tasha's story that she, her alibi and all that kind of stuff. And, Blanca leaves the office and in walks Donovan. And Donovan tells them how he has jack shit on this information that Teresi provided them about James, killing the guard at the prison and all this kind of stuff. And then Tamika was like, well, Proctor just got his law license back. So she wants, Mock and Saxe to put the squeeze on him to get some information out of him, in regards to James and, this guard that was killed in the prison. And I also forgot to mention that she tells Mock and Saxe not to, keep Angela in on any of the information that's going on. They are upstairs cleaning this apartment. I guess somebody's about to move in upstairs. Fuck, like, right in the middle of my video. And then you had this scene where Dre, he is meeting with 2-Bit and Spanky. And, he's asking him about Diego and all this kind of stuff. And 2-Bit is letting him know that, your boy Ghost actually did not come to kill Diego. It was Kanan. And then Dre's like, well, why did you kill him? He was like, no, we didn't kill him because you didn't tell us to. And then Dre was questioning him about why they didn't do it and all that kind of stuff. And again, 2-Bit is like, well, hell, you didn't tell us to kill the nigga, so we didn't kill him. And, he was like, well, next time if you get the chance to kill him, kill that nigga. And, he was asking him why come they didn't call him and all that kind of stuff. He was like, that wasn't a part of the plan for us to kill him. So in walks Cristobal. And, 2-Bit is just looking Cristobal up and down like this bitch nigga right here. So 2-Bit and Spanky leave. And then, Cristobal and Dre are talking. And, they had that meeting with Quinn. So when they go to meet with Quinn, Dre tells Cristobal to call him Mr. What is his last name? Mr. Coleman. I'm like, bitch, really? Mr. Coleman? Nigga, you were motherfucking Dre. All right, so then you got Tommy, Ghost, and Kanan together. And Tommy's just trying to figure out how did Ghost and Kanan get the drop on Diego. And, basically, Ghost just wants him to reach out to Jason to try to buy him a little bit more time. So he does text him and tell him, one down and one to go. But then he was also like, well, what if, Jason doesn't believe me and all that kind of stuff. And Kanan was like, I got Diego's head. So if he needs some proof, we can provide him with that. So Kanan leaves and, Ghost wants to have a side conversation with Tommy. And then, Tommy's like, you always want to have these those secret ass conversations. So, basically he is telling Tommy how he wants to frame Dre. But then Tommy's like, but, Dre is a link to Alicia and we need him alive. And, Ghost is like, the feds are moving in quickly on Tariq and all that kind of stuff. And then, Tommy gets a text from Jason saying, he has a little bit of time, but not enough time. And, he tells Ghost that, and Ghost is like, that's Jason? And he's like, yeah, who else would it be? Because, Ghost is expecting for Jason to be dead instead of him actually texting him back. So he's really shocked and surprised by that. And then we see Proctor. He's over there at the AUSA office, and he's getting out the elevator with Saxe. And, Saxe talking about how he would have gotten him a cake, but nobody likes him and all that kind of shit. And, when he's walking, he sees his cousin Vinny there with Donovan. And he's like, why do y'all have my cousin here? And, they talking about, then Proctor goes in the room with Mock and Saxe, and Mock is there. Sorry, y'all. And they're talking about how they can get him on perjury because he's lied about his dealings with Vinny and all that kind of stuff. But then they start talking about James and all, and the dead guard there, and how they feel like Proctor has a hand in all this kind of stuff. And Proctor's like, what, that guard had a lot of complaints against him, so anybody could have done it and all that kind of stuff. But again, they want to say it's a conspiracy with James being in jail and Proctor, and all that kind of stuff. So they mentioned the Markham thing to Proctor because they're trying to draw a line between everything at this point, and they're talking about how he was representing James and Tommy at the same time. And they're telling him also about how they have a witness, but they won't say who the witness is, which we all know it is Teresi's old bitch ass. All right, and then you got Tariq and Kanan. They are together. Kanan is giving Tariq the drugs to sell at the school. I know he has some Xanax in there. I believe he has some weed. And Tariq was talking about how much money he can make, and Tariq is thinking that he's gonna take a profit from all the money that he gets. But Kanan's like, nah, little nigga, everything that you sell, I want 11 G's from it, and all that kind of stuff. And then Kanan is, telling Tariq, do you even have a plan about how you're gonna hide this money and all this kind of shit? Which Tariq does not have a plan. And then he asked Tariq what kind of classes he's taking in school and all that kind of stuff. And Tariq's named off all the classes that he's taking. He's like, yeah, they ain't teaching you what I'm teaching you and all that kind of stuff. So then he's like, you know what? We got to go meet with some people. You coming, little nigga? And then Tariq hops in the car with him and they dip out. Okay, and then you have Dre and Diego. They are meeting with Quinn. And Quinn is asking Diego, if he's ready to take up all this responsibilities that's going on right now. And he's like, yeah. And then she asks him, what's his background with the nightclub shit and all that kind of stuff. And he runs off the list of things that he's done. And Quinn also tells Dre that unexpectedly he will be going to Paris to do some stuff for them. And that's it with their business. And when they're walking off, Dre is talking to Diego, not Diego, but what's that nigga name? Cristobal. Sorry, he's talking to Cristobal about question him about the stuff that he told Quinn, and how he felt like he made it up. But Cristobal said, how I made that up. And then we moved back over to Kanan. So when he told Tariq that they were going to meet with somebody, he's actually meeting up with Vincent about being Vincent's distributor since all that shit fell through with Tommy and all that kind of stuff. And then Vincent is kind of questioning Kanan about Tommy and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, Tommy's out of the business, so you don't have to worry about that and all that kind of stuff. And then Vincent goes and talks to one of his guys he speaks the language that he speaks. Is it Italian? He speaks Italian to him. And he's basically asking him, can we trust him? And he was like, yes. And then Tariq jumps in and says, yeah, you can't trust him. And Kanan's like, what's going on? And then Vincent tells him, I was asking my boy over here if I can trust you, but the kid says that I can trust you. And he says, now I see why you brought the kid with you, which I don't think Kanan knew that Tariq, well, yes, he did, because Tariq told him what classes he was taking. So that was a benefit to having Tariq there with him. So Kanan was using Tariq. All right, so then we have Ghost and Tommy together. And, Ghost is sending Dre a text talking about they need to meet up and all that kind of stuff. And then they actually spot Dre and Cristobal coming out of the meeting that they just had with Quinn and all that kind of stuff. And Ghost is kind of trying to wonder, well, why is Dre including Cristobal in the club shit and all that kind of stuff? And Tommy's like, who gives a fuck and all that kind of stuff. And then Tommy is telling Ghost how he's having a family dinner that he got to go to. And at first Ghost didn't really catch on, and then he finally figured out, nigga, you got a family dinner with Teresa, like you still drinking the Kool-Aid from that motherfucker? Like, what the fuck? And then, Tommy's talking about, what he's about to leave. But when Ghost feels like he can openly and honestly tell him what's going on, to hit him up and all that kind of stuff. And I'm actually with Ghost in this situation. Like, you still sitting here trusting this motherfucker? Like, why, Tommy? Like, what has Teresa done for you to make you trust him that much? Now, we got this scene with Tariq, and he's coming home, and Tasha and Angela are there. Man, I promise you, I would have busted that little nigga's ass if he would have talked to me the way he talked to Tasha. So when he walks in and sees Tasha and Angela together, he's asking, why is Angela there? Is she there to arrest Tasha? And they were like, no, she's not here to arrest me. She's actually here to help us and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, is she helping you or is she helping Dad? She's like, no, she's helping me and you. And then Angela hops up saying, yeah, I'm helping you guys. And then they start to question Tariq about Kanan and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, if he knew Ray Ray, and, you know, Tariq starts to tell them about the stuff, you know, him knowing Ray Ray and, you know, Jukebox and all that kind of stuff. But then Tariq kind of puts it together. Y'all are trying to frame Kanan and all that kind of stuff. And then Tasha's like, yeah, I am trying to frame him. And then this one, Tariq started going off on Tasha, talking about, you know, he know how Ghost is, but he didn't know that she was the same way, and started, you know, dropping the F-bombs at her and all that kind of shit. And I'm like, Tasha, if you don't slap the shit out that little nigga, like, that is a disrespectful ass little motherfucker. Like, I wish I would have ever talked to my mom in that way, shape, or form. Like, my mom was about, like, what, maybe 5'1", 5'2". Like, I would have never talked to that woman like that, because I knew even if I had talked to her like that, she would have just reached up and knocked the shit out of my black ass. Like, how are you so fucking disrespectful to your mama? Like, what? And then she's sitting up here taking all the heat for some shit that your little dumb ass did. Like, nigga, get the fuck out of here. And then Tasha was like, you know, it's either Kanan or me. And he's like, you got to find another way, ma. I'm like, nigga, what? Like I just said, your mama is sitting here doing everything she can to keep your little ass out of fucking trouble and out of jail. And you gonna tell her to find another way? Nigga, what? All right, so then we move over to Tommy. He's at his place. He's having dinner. So he had a knock at the door, and it's Teresi and it's Connie. And they come inside and they smell the food and all that kind of stuff. And they see they see Keisha there. And Connie's like, you gotta cook? And I'm like, bitch, why is that all us black people are good for, is cooking and cleaning? Like, they can't be his woman, they can't be his friend. Like, why she got to be the cook and all that kind of shit? Like, fuck you, Connie, for real, for that comment. So they all sit down to eat dinner, and I believe Keisha cooked soul food, because that's what it looked like to me. Because I remember Teresi saying, you know, whatever the food was, he wasn't quite sure what it was, but it was damn good and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm imagining it was soul food, and they never had no black folks cooking before. So, like I said, they sitting down, and, you know, Connie, you know, she was talking to Tommy about, you know, the advice that she gave him, and she's kind of dry about it. And then, you know, Tommy's like, you know, I can trust Keisha and all that kind of stuff. And she said, oh, you can? And, you know, she's going off about you know, talking about how the men in the lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. And, and, you know, she's talking about how she's on borrowed time right now with Teresi and all that kind of stuff. And then Keisha's like, you know what, you know, Tommy came back into my life and things are good right now and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, I'm still looking at Connie with a side eye with the comment about the cook. Like, where'd that come from? But I knew when Tommy wanted to sit down and have this dinner with Teresi, Connie, and Keisha the last episode, I'm like, they're probably not gonna go for the fact that Keisha's a sister and not an Italian or a white girl. So I kind of expected it, but I didn't expect her to call her a fucking cook. All right, and then we have Angela. She's in her office. She's on the phone talking to somebody about Dre, and then in walk Mock. And Mock is asking her, you know, what's up with my recommendation and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, Angela's like, well, what's up with this investigation that you're doing on Tommy? And he says, oh, you know about that? And she's like, yeah, I do know about that. And she was like, you know, this is all about Sack and all that kind of stuff. She's like, this beef between Sack is long before you. So this ain't got shit to do with you. You need to stay out of it. She's like, don't you want a corner office where people answer to you and all that kind of stuff? And he was like, yeah, he wants to get out of that office and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, he's telling, you know, Angela how they have a witness and all that kind of stuff. And Angela's trying to get information about him with who the witness is. But, you know, he won't tell her who the CI is and all that kind of stuff, which this is because Tamika, again, doesn't want them to tell Angela too much of anything at this point. So, you know, we'll see how this goes with Angela and Mock. And then we got Tasha and Ghost together. Ghost is telling Angela, I mean, not Angela, but telling Tasha how Angela has photos of Dre and Ray Ray. And, you know, Tasha's like, maybe we shouldn't be going after Dre. Maybe we should try to find somebody else to go after. And Ghost is like, well, I don't know anybody else that we can go after and all that kind of stuff. And she's like, what about your boy Kanan? And, you know, Ghost is like, no, we can't go after Kanan. You know, Kanan actually helped us with Tariq and all that kind of stuff, whereas Dre put Tariq in danger. And then, you know, Tasha wants to go off on this guilt trip about, you know, the club being shot up, you know, them all the people that they've killed and all that kind of stuff. And she's just trying to put a guilt trip on Ghost so that way he can go after Kanan. And I'm like, I mean, I get where Tasha's coming from. She hates Kanan, but I think, Ghost plan was a little bit better than what Tasha is actually planning. Like I think Tasha's blinded by the fact that she hates Kanan so fucking much that she'll do anything that she can to get back at this motherfucker. Like, you do realize Kanan is a ruthless ass motherfucker, and if you cross him, y'all were afraid of Kanan for so long. Like, I don't get why Tasha does not say why this is not 100% a good idea at this point. All right, so then we got Keisha and Tommy. Keisha and Tommy, they are at her apartment. They on cloud nine after this dinner with Teresi and all this kind of stuff. And Tommy is asking her, did Teresi kind of come down hard on her and all that kind of stuff. And she's like, nah, it's all good and all that kind of stuff. And there's a knock at her door. And then they were like, are you expecting somebody? And she was like, no, I'm not expecting nobody. She's like, Tommy is not some nigga. So Tommy was like, okay, well, let me go answer the door. So Tommy goes and answers the door. There's a man at the door, and the man is asking for Keisha and all that kind of stuff. And she's like, "Yeah, I'm Keisha." So she goes over where the man is, and he hands her a subpoena, telling her she's been served. So she opens it up, and it's the grand jury wants her to come to testify on behalf of Tasha's statement that she gave. And Keisha's over there just kind of going, flipping out like, wait a minute, Tommy, so why the fuck did you come back in the picture? And she's thinking that Tommy came back into the picture to use her. He's like, nah, I didn't do no shit like that. And, she's just really, really upset at this point. And, basically Tommy tells her, go talk to Tasha. Tasha will figure all this shit out. And once we get it figured out, we'll be done with Tasha and Ghost. Both of them motherfuckers will just say, fuck them. All right, then we got Tariq. He's in his room on his phone, and I'm pretty sure he was texting Kanan because Ghost came into the room and he immediately put the phone up and he laid on his bed. So Ghost comes in the room and he asks him questions about Dre and Ray Ray if he ever saw them together. And Tariq tells him, yeah, that he did see them together, at his friend's, at Ghost's friend's house that he killed and all that kind of stuff. And, he wants to know why he's questioning him about Kanan. But then he says, he figured out that he's trying to frame Dre and all that kind of stuff. And he said, well, Dre wasn't there, so what if this doesn't work out? Will mom go to jail? He was like, nah, your mama's not going to jail. I'll take the rap for, everything if it comes to that point. And, when it comes to Tariq, I'm like, oh my God, Tariq is he gets on my nerves just a whole lot, for real. Like, I just don't know what it is with this kid. Like, he really, truly gets on my fucking nerves. But, when Ghost told me that he would go to jail and all that kind of stuff, Tariq is like, he didn't believe it and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay. Like, your family's sitting here trying to fight for you and you don't believe anything? Like, what the fuck, you little spoiled ass brat? All right, so then we have Tommy and Kanan. They are together. They playing pool and all that kind of stuff. And Tommy is still questioning, how did they get the drop on Diego and all that kind of stuff? And, Kanan tells him that Dre wanted Diego dead and all that kind of stuff, and that Ghost made a deal with him. And, Tommy is like, what? Why would he do that? And then this is where Kanan is basically planting a seed of doubt in Tommy's head, basically saying that with the deal, one of them probably would have been, supposed to be dead. It's either him or Tommy. And I'm like, oh, fuck, like, here we go with this shit again. They about to be against each other. And then Ghost comes into the room and, they talking and all that kind of stuff. But then he asks Kanan, can he step out? And Kanan like, why you always telling me to step out like I'm some kind of fucking kid or something? And then, Tommy's like, nah, you ain't got to leave. But then Kanan does leave. So, this is where Ghost starts to tell Tommy about his plan about setting Dre and all that kind of stuff. He wants to tell the cops that when it came down to Dre, he found out that Dre was running drugs through the club, and that's why he fired him. But at the same time, they have to keep their drug dealings, out of it, so that they don't get caught up. And Tom is like, well, why don't we put the head of Diego's head somewhere where they'll find it and all that kind of stuff. And then Ghost is like, yeah, and we can put the murder weapon there too. And Tom is like, the murder weapon? He's like, I thought Tasha got rid of that. And then, Ghost is like, yeah, that's a long ass story that I have to tell you at a different time. So I also forgot to mention that Ghost was also questioning Tommy about when he was in jail, how they were running drugs through the club with the Ray Ray and all that kind of stuff. And that's how they're going to link Dre and Ray Ray together. because once Ghost found out that what he was doing, he fired Dre, and then Dre went to Ray Ray to try to take out Ghost. But again, like I said, they have to keep their drug dealers out of it just to get Dre. All right, so then we got Kanan and Tariq. They are together again. They trying to move the product since Kanan is kind of short-handed at this point. And Kanan is kind of iffy about putting the products in his car because of the shit that's happened in the past with him, Ghost, and Tasha framing him and all that kind of shit. And Tariq is basically telling Tariq is basically telling Kanan how Ghost might not be in the picture much longer. And then Kanan's like, you gonna take that nigga out? He's like, nah, he's planning on taking a rap from me. And Kanan's like, I don't see that nigga taking a rap for you and all that kind of shit. But then, Tariq does tell him about how his original plan is to, frame Dre for the murder and all that kind of stuff. And then Kanan's like, okay, now I can see it, because that sound like, that do sound like Ghost. All right, and then you got Ghost. He's meeting with Councilman Tate. And, he's telling Councilman Tate that he might want to keep his distance from Dre at this point, because Dre is dealing the drugs and all that kind of stuff. He's telling him the story that he told Tommy about how he found out that he was doing the drugs, running the drugs through the club, and that's why he fired him, all that kind of stuff. And Councilman Tate's like, why are you telling me this now? And he's telling Councilman Tate that once this all goes down, that Dre will eventually take Councilman Tate down with him, and that won't be good for his campaign run at all. But again, Councilman Tate is still questioning Ghost at this point. And Ghost is like, if you stick with me, I'm gonna take you to the top and all that kind of shit. And I'm like, okay, I see it. Play this. There's still something quite a little bit off to me when it comes to Councilman Tate. I cannot put my finger on what it is with Councilman Tate, but there's something off about Councilman Tate. All right, and then you got go back to Ghost and not Ghost, but Tariq and Kanan. They're walking through their old neighborhood, and Kanan is telling Tariq about when they used to run the block and all that kind of stuff, how every time the cops would catch up to them, that Ghost would take off running and leave Kanan and Tommy behind. And it wasn't for him trying to get away from the cops. It was that if the cops were to catch anybody, the cops would catch either Tommy or Kanan. And then Tariq was like, damn, that motherfucker has always been looking out for himself since day one. And Kanan hands Tariq some drugs and tells him that he needs to get rid of them. And Tariq is like, but I don't know nobody in this area. And then Kanan was like, don't come back until that shit is gone. So over at Truth, you got Ghost. He is congratulating Proctor on getting his law license back and all that kind of stuff. And then Proctor's bringing up that guard and all that kind of stuff. And talking about how he was murdered and all that kind of stuff, and asking James if he knows any information about it. And James is over there just quiet and all that kind of stuff. But then Proctor does tell him that there is a witness. Is there anybody that witnessed this and all that kind of stuff? And then James asks him, is something wrong and all that kind of stuff? And then Proctor's trying to tell him, nah, everything is good. You don't have anything to worry about right now. And, so James does ask Proctor, what's the collateral damage if I take the rap for a murder that I didn't commit and all that kind of stuff. And Proctor's trying to get information out of James, but he's not giving him too much information. But he's telling him, if he does that will give the feds, free reign to dig deeper into him. And with him already having a target on his back, it won't help his cause at all. And what he says, what about the others involved? And he said, is this the stuff that you were talking about with Tasha and Angela? And James kind of shuts that down at that point. But Proctor is looking kind of sketchy at this point. Like, it's something, I don't know what's going on with Proctor at this point. I know he's worried about Mock and Sackett, but I'm hoping for the sake, I don't know what I hope at this point. I don't know, because I'm conflicted. Right. So then we move over. We got Keisha and Tasha. They are together, and Keisha just talking about this subpoena that she got. Having to go to the grand jury and talk to them and all that kind of stuff. And Keisha's kind of freaking out at this point because she's gonna have to get on the stand and basically perjure herself for Tasha and all that kind of stuff. When Tasha's really not even giving her any information about what's going on and all this kind of shit. And Tasha's basically telling her. She's like, well, what about your boy Silver? And, she's telling her about Silver, how that's not even an option anymore. And, Keisha's just, freaking out as she should be. And Tasha's talking about when it came down to this, she lied to her because they actually because she had an idea of who killed Ray Ray and all that kind of stuff, but she just couldn't tell Keisha and all that kind of stuff. And again, Keisha is upset, and Tasha's telling her to trust her and all that kind of stuff. And when she gives her word, she keeps it and all that kind of stuff. And then Keisha's like, but I ain't never asked you to perjure yourself from me. When you did the drugs, cleaning the dirty money through my salon and all that kind of shit. Like, Keisha is just in her fucking feelings. And I understood why Keisha felt the way she felt, because Tasha has put her time after time in fucked up positions where Keisha has to lie about shit that she shouldn't really have to lie about. But we'll see how this go. And then Tasha does admit that she has not been a good friend to Keisha. Like, no shit, Sherlock, you have not been a good friend to this girl. You've put this girl in so much legal shit that she could get herself in trouble for. And she got a kid? Like, really, Tasha? Like, I get what you're doing. You're trying to protect Tariq. But, like, wow. All right, so then we got Tariq. He goes back to the car where Kanan is. And Kanan's like, nah, nigga, go back out there and sell that shit. You can't be scared to sell that shit. And, Tariq pulls out the money in his pocket. And he gives it to Kanan. And when Kanan starts unflipping that money, I saw that 120. I'm like, that's a fake 20. And Kanan even said, man, nigga, this is a fake $20 bill. And so, they driving around. They see the little niggas that Tariq sold the drugs to. And Tariq asks Kanan for a gun. So Kanan gives him the gun. And Tariq gets out the car. And when he gets out the car, the little niggas run. And I'm like, why would y'all run? Like, y'all don't see this little nigga getting out this car, holding his gun all shaking and shit? Like, he's scared just as much as y'all are. But the little niggas run away. And Tariq picks up the drugs, hops back in the car. Now, when they were in the car, I did see a car behind them. I'm like, oh shit, is that a cop that's about to pull them over? But it wasn't a cop that pulled. It wasn't a cop. They just kept driving. And while they're driving, Tariq is questioning Kanan about, because Kanan said he's like the son that he didn't have. And then Tariq says, well, what about Shauna and all that kind of stuff? And, Kanan is giving his spin on the whole shit that happened with Shauna and all that kind of stuff, and him killing him. And he's basically telling Tariq that he wouldn't do that to Tariq and all that kind of shit. And so and I forgot to mention that when Tasha was with Keisha, she texted Tariq asking him where he was. So Tariq sees a text message from Tasha. He texts her back and he tells her that he's in Queens. And, he tells Kanan that he got to get back home. So Kanan says, okay, I'll get you home. All right, so then you have Dre and Ghost. They are meeting at Truth. And, Dre is talking about, Ghost is talking about how he killed how Diego's dead and Jason is not. And then, Dre is like, well, shit, neither one of us kept our end of the deal, because when I got there, to the hotel where Jason wasn't there. So obviously somebody in your camp dropped a dime on you and told Jason about everything. So you got somebody in your organization that's not trustworthy and all that kind of stuff. And then, Dre is over there. Dre has got a big cocky ass head talking about how, with Diego dead, Alicia needs me now more than ever. And, I run these streets, nigga, and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, nigga, your head is a little bit too big right now. Like, you can get got. Like, you do realize that. You can get got. So basically Dre is meeting with them, telling him how not to fuck with him and fuck with his people and all that kind of stuff. And once Dre leaves, Ghost takes time and talking about they need to meet up. All right, then we got Proctor. He is meeting with his cousin Vinny. And Vinny is telling him how the feds were questioning him about him and Proctor always meeting up and all that kind of stuff. And he tells him that he needs to get rid of that computer that he has. And Proctor's like, no, I can't get rid of it because it's it's leverage for me right now. Like, I can get immunity for this and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, Proctor, do not do this shit. Like, oh my God, please don't turn them in. Because he's telling him that on that computer that there's recordings that can implicate both Ghost and Tommy and all that kind of shit. And then Vinny's asking him, well, can you trust them and all that kind of stuff? And Proctor's like, he likes them, but he's not he wasn't working for them by choice. He was actually working for them because they strong-armed him with the issues of his ex-wife Lindsay, and how they threatened his daughter and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just still sitting here thinking, like, Proctor, what the fuck are you doing? But Vinny does end up giving Proctor that computer, telling him, you know what, you take this shit, get this shit off of my hands, because it's getting a little bit too hot right about now. And I'm just still thinking to myself, like, what the fuck is Proctor up to? Like, I don't know what is going to happen with him. And Proctor did also say that when it comes to James, he feels like he's on the low end of the totem pole, because he feels like James is going to protect himself, his kid, Angela, and Tasha, and then Tommy, and then he's gonna be at the far bottom. So I mean, I get where Proctor is coming from. He's afraid of what can happen, so he has to take matters into his own hands and protect himself. All right, then we got Tariq. He is still with Kanan, and you know, Kanan is over there, you know, asking him is he okay, and at this point, Kanan is basically trying to smooth things over Tariq and just calm Tariq down and all that kind of shit. So they do this time get pulled over by the cops. And you know, you got Ghost, he's at the penthouse and he's in Tasha's safe trying to find Tasha's gun. So he screams out for Tasha to come there. She comes into the room and he asks her, where's the gun? But then we move back over to Tariq and Kanan and the cops. And the cops did ask Kanan, can they look in his trunk? And Kanan said yes, he ain't got shit to hide. So when they opened up the trunk, there was Tasha's gun. And then we move back over to Tommy. Tommy is texting Ghost, asking him, like, where you at? Like, I got eyes on Dre and all this kind of shit. But Ghost and Tasha are arguing about everything, because Tasha is saying, you know, my gun is with Tariq and Kanan right now. And Ghost is like, why is your gun with them? Like, and she's like, I'm setting him up and all that kind of shit. And Ghost is mad, and I understand why Ghost is mad, because, you know, you don't know what Kanan will do in this situation. And that's what Ghost is mad about, because, you know, Tasha has put Tariq in harm's way by setting up Kanan and all that kind of shit. And then Ghost is like, but Kanan helped me when it came down to Tariq and all this kind of shit. And I'm like, if you knew what we knew, you wouldn't feel no kind of qualms or remorse about Kanan at this point, how he's trying to get Tariq back into the drug ring and all that kind of stuff. So we move back over to Kanan and Tariq. And, you know, the cops are asking Tariq, is he okay and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, they're talking about the gun that they found in the car. And Kanan's like, that's a bitch gun and all that kind of shit. That ain't my gun. And, you know, they talking about, well, we got a hit. You know, we got a missing person from his mom, you know, and it was with you and her gun, and it's in your trunk and all that kind of shit. And, you know, they asking Tariq, you know, are you here against your will? And Kanan like, nah, he ain't against his will. He like, tell him who the real, you know, tell him all that kind of shit. But Tariq does say that yes, he was there against his will. So they take Tariq and put him in the squad car. And, you know, Kanan's like, I hadn't been arrested in a minute, so be loose on the cuffs and all that kind of shit. When he says that, he takes that cop's gun, he kills that cop, and then he just starts shooting all of them, start killing all the cops. I'm like, oh, fuck, Tasha. What the fuck have you and Tariq done? Like, but why do they keep sending me this shit? Like, I've already picked up my package. So like I said, I picked that shit up yesterday. Do I have another? Okay, moving on. What was I talking about? Oh, Kanan shooting the cops. There's two cops that's still alive, and one is shooting at him, but then he kills her. And then there's another one who shoots Kanan. He shoots him in the chest and he shoots him in the gut and all that kind of, in the stomach and all that kind of stuff. And then Kanan shoots that cop, and you know, he walks over there, and Tariq is in the back seat, scared as shit. And Kanan kills that cop. And then Kanan goes and hops in one of the cop cars. Kanan drives off, but when he's driving off, Kanan is, you know, spitting up the blood and all that kind of shit. And that's when Kanan dies. And I'm like, Tariq, you dodged a bullet right there, little nigga. Like, you really dodged a big ass. So we at the police station, you know, Tariq is there, and Tasha runs up to him, and she's, you know, all happy and all that kind of stuff, and want to know what's going on. And Blanca too wants to know what's going on. So she pulls Tasha in the interrogation room, and she asks Tasha about her relationship with Kanan. And Tasha basically tells her that, you know, he was a friend of the family and all that kind of stuff, and you know, that he was around the night of Ray Ray's murder and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, she tells her to ask Keisha. And then Keisha, you have Keisha over in another room, and they're interrogating her as well. And then Keisha's telling her, yeah, you know, Kanan was at the penthouse the night of Ray Ray's murder, so he had ample time to, you know, get to Tasha's gun and all that kind of shit. And then you got Tariq telling about Ray Ray and how he told Kanan everything, and then Kanan went to kill Ray Ray. So, you know, you also have at the club, in the freezer, you got Diego's head, and you got Quinn, and you got Cristobal there, and they looking all shocked and surprised, and you got Drake walking in, and you got the feds coming and all that kind of shit. And then you got Tasha, Tariq, and James. They are coming out of the interrogation room, and you got Angela walking in. And, you know, when Angela walks past Tasha, Tasha's smiling, but then when she walks past James, you know, he like, what the fuck is going on and all that kind of shit. And then Angela walks up to Blanca and gives her, you know, the files that she had on Ray Ray, telling her that he was a dirty cop and all that kind of stuff, and that you are right. This is above my pay grade and all that kind of shit. So Angela walks that all smug and shit. And then you got Proctor. He is over with Tamika, Mock, and Sax, and he's telling them how he doesn't have any information on James at this point. But if anybody's helping them, it's Angela Valdez. And Tamika's face just dropped, and mine did too. I'm like, oh shit. And you know, you got Tommy. He's at the morgue, and Ghost comes and joins him. And you know, Tommy is telling Ghost how Kanan said that, you know, Ghost is probably gonna come after him and all that kind of shit. And he's like, how many more of my people you gonna come after? And you know, Ghost is telling him that it wasn't him, that it was actually Tasha and Tariq who set up Kanan and all that kind of shit. And Tommy's like, you gonna blame your wife and child? And I'm like, Tommy, it is the truth. Like, I know you don't believe him, but this motherfucker is telling you the truth. And you know, like I said, Tommy is just not really sure what to believe at this point. So that was the episode. It was actually a really good episode. We got 2 more left to the season finale. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave your comments, and I will see you guys later for Insecure.